One of my favorite projects to teach third graders is this still life with fruit. It is so much fun. I have the students start off with 18 by 24 construction paper, and I always use the brand True Ray. I have everybody start off with this little tracer that I trace on poster board paper ahead of time, and it's in the shape of a bowl. Now, purposefully, I put little indentations in the design of the bowl, and so that we can talk about how we want the bowl to look like it's sitting on the table. We don't want the bowl like hovering above the table or, even kind of floating up here like this. We want it sitting on the table. So the bowl's really going to look like it's a little bit in the front of the table. So when we draw our table or the ground line, we're going to put our ruler right here where that little indentation is within the bowl. And we're going to then trace around the bowl so that it looks like the bowl is sitting on the table. From there, again, we're going to talk about overlapping. So we want to add fruit so that it's not floating in the air, but it looks like it's sitting in the bowl or sitting down on the table. So we're going to put it like right back here. And the students will begin tracing right here, and then go around and stop. We don't want the students to put the banana in the front and trace the bottom of the banana because the banana is inside the bowl. The bowl is in the front, and then we see the banana. So they just trace that top part, then they don't have to do a lot of erasing here. I showed them an example of when this is done wrong, where there's like x-ray vision, where like the line for the orange would be inside the banana, the bottom of the banana is there, so they can see what it shouldn't look like and then what they need to do to make it successful. I have students trace 12 different fruits. I also count like the bowl, that counts as one of the tracers. I have them trace this little vase, or they can turn it upside down and make it a little bottle. So there's extra things in there that they can use as well. And they have to add in the details. So this is only the outside edge of the fruit. So after they've drawn it in with the overlapping, then they're gonna have to go back in and like draw the green part of the watermelon. They're gonna need to draw the seeds for the watermelon. Some of the fruit, has textures, like the lime or the lemon is like bumpy. So they go in and add little tiny little dots to it. In the past, I had made stems on the fruit, but I realized that just the wear and tear of using these in the art room over and over, those little pieces fell off, and it wasn't really important to have them. I could just have the basic shape and then have students add those in when they were adding in the details of their picture. So like the strawberry, it's just the basic strawberry. They draw in the little green stem when they're adding in the details. We talk about putting the fruit either inside the bowl or sitting on the table. Something like, the banana cannot stand up on the table. It has to be laying down on the table. So we think a lot about the placement and talk about overlapping that first day. Typically, they will spend most of the first day just tracing the fruit, adding the stems, adding the detail of the fruit. I'll have them make their own design for the bowl and then think about, where is this bowl? A lot of them put it in a kitchen, so they put like windows and refrigerators behind it. Some people put like a little calendar with the year. Other kids put like cheese and crackers, like someone's about to have a little snack. But I have them design their very own background and add things to personalize the picture. Like a lot of them will add like the little blue sticker on the banana and fun details that way. If they have time the first day, because my classes are an hour long, they'll start outlining with Sharpie. Now, day 2, they come back in and they finish up any tracing or outlining that they need to do, and then they begin painting in the picture. So that means they're painting in the table, they're painting in the background, they're painting in the fruit. And we talk about using realistic colors. But things like apples, that could be green or red or yellow. And just even talking about that and helps you to end up with more variety in the artwork. On the third day, so they're coming back and most of this is painted, I have them go ahead and then finish all the painting, and we talk about shadows. So in this picture, we would talk about how the light source might be a kitchen lamp, or maybe the sun is shining in through a window on this side of my picture. So on this side of the bowl and all of the fruit, I'm making a light line there. So it looks like that part is slightly darker. It's giving a little bit of form to the shape, and so the fruit doesn't look so flat. I have them select the shadow color not by just using black for everything, but by choosing a color of paint that's next to that color of the fruit on the color wheel. So for example, if it's yellow, it's next to green on the color wheel, they're allowed to use green for that shadow. The only color we don't use is yellow for a shadow just because it's not dark enough. And then they add in those shadows to complete their painting. The second project ties into ancient cultures, so it fits in with Greece or Rome. I give the students a pre-cut shape of scratch art paper that looks like a vase. Now you can make this yourself by having students color with crayon or oil pastel and then using black paint on top and then scratching it away. I tend to buy the multicolor scratch art paper and just use that. So I will take the pattern that I use for the vase, 3 or 4 sheets of scratch art paper at the same time, and cut that into this shape for students. Now, to begin with, I give them a planning sheet where they plan out what repeating patterns they're going to use, because in Greece and Rome, that's the style that you see on the artwork. So they come up with some different patterns that they want to use, and then I have them select an animal. So we talk about how there are different like Greek myths and stories. You know, everyone knows the story of Pegasus, the horse. I hope I'm getting that name right. The horse that's flying so close to the sun that its wings melt. And there's lessons in that, not to be too, you know, boisterous and show offy that you're flying too close to the sun and your wings are melting. So they come up with a story about an animal, and I just have them write like a few little sentences on their planning sheet and plan out what animal is going to be in their story. So for mine, I thought of a story about an elephant that they taught how to paint. And they would feed, give them details like, the people would feed the animals little elephant cookies that they really liked every time that they touched the paintbrush to the paper to encourage the elephants to paint. And they were able to teach the elephants how to paint flowers. So I illustrate that within the vase. So I prefer this where they're connecting like a story that they come up with, they're creating an animal, to having third graders do like a figure drawing on the Greek vase, because that can be a little bit too challenging for them. And I don't like the idea of them copying Greek art. I like them were being inspired by ancient Greece and Rome and their idea about animals being important within stories and weaving that into our artwork. I think that's a better way to complement and appreciate the artwork that already exists without kind of creating a copy of something that already does exist. Once the students plan this out, so they're drawing the vase kind of smaller, just like a little doodle of the animal, they're writing out the story, drawing out a couple of patterns that they want to be both on the top, the handles, and the bottom of their vase. Then I have them move on, once they've shown that basic idea, to the actual size of the vase. And this is just on copy paper. They'll draw it here. I just tell them to draw it bigger and better. So they're adding more details, they're adding more patterns, and they're drawing this just in pencil. Students will then cut this out, and then they're gonna set it on top of the scratch art paper. By this point, we're probably getting into day number 2 of the project. Again, I have hour-long classes. I would write students' name on the back with Sharpie so I know whose is whose, and we're taping down the copy paper to the scratch art paper. At that point, students have just a pencil drawing here on the top, and they're taking a pen, like a ballpoint pen. I always tell them like a pen that teacher might grade a paper with. You're not looking for any kind of felt tip or marker pen. That's not going to work. But a pen so that they can trace on top, pressing down really hard, and that way they can see where they've traced. It would work if you traced it again with a pencil, but then the students aren't really able to see if they've traced everything. With a pen, they can apply some pressure to it, but they can also see what have they traced and what have they not. Now, what the pen is doing is taking the drawing and pushing it down into the scratch art paper. So you aren't going to see that rainbow effect on the scratch art paper. You're just going to see what looks kind of like a light pencil line from the pressure of the pen pushing down into the scratch art paper through that copy paper. So they're going to know where to scratch. At that point, I have the students cut the tape. So it's going to be taped up here and at the bottom. They cut it off with scissors, and then they just have the scratch art paper. You want to have them avoid like touching it and stuff. I feel like the oils from your hands make it hard sometimes when you touch everywhere on there for you to scratch the black paint on the top off. And you do this with little wooden sticks. Now, these are really pretty affordable, so I would recommend getting them just from an art supply catalog or from Amazon. They come in packs of like 250. When they're nice and pointy and sharp, they're great for a scratch art, so students would just go back and forth. It's not like drawing. It's not like this, but it's a little bit like back and forth and back and forth. Like you're scratching off a lottery ticket, but going over the lines that you have. And it reveals rainbow colors underneath if you have the rainbow paper. When those sticks get dull and they're not so pointy and sharp anymore, they make wonderful clay tools. So it's one of those things that you can just keep in your art room, and it's a really good investment. Students really enjoy making these, and when it's done, I usually do laminate them, and then I display them. I have some like paper pedestals that I made, and I'll display them on that in the hallway, but it's a really fun project and ties in some of the ancient cultures that third graders are studying. I like to start the year out with collage. And the third graders do an abstract holiday collage. So each student selects a holiday that is important to them. I do this at the beginning of the school year because it's minimal supplies, but that means that there might be students that at that time still need a lot of support with reading and writing. So, and I have a lot of multi-language learners at my school, so I do provide visuals for the planning sheet. On Teachers Pay Teachers, I found what I guess you would call like a visual dictionary of different holidays. So at the top, it might say like the 4th of July, and then there's a picture of the flag. It might say Ramadan at the top, and then there's a picture of a prayer rug, and then it's labeled. So students can choose what best is something that their family really gets into celebrating, and they've got some words spelled out for them. Now, I go around and help them to add additional ideas to their planning sheets by bringing just some Post-it notes. I jot things down for them that they tell me, and we stick it on the table, and then they transfer it to their planning sheet. The planning sheet, they need to think of food and drinks that their family has for that holiday, or things that they associate with that holiday. So maybe like hot chocolate for Christmas time. Then they come up with ideas for decorations. So these could be things that they put up at their house, like balloons for a birthday party, or just things that they associate with that holiday. Like when you think of Thanksgiving, you just kind of think of turkey. When you think of St. Patrick's Day, you think of leprechauns. You don't have to own one of those in your house, but if that's a symbol to you of that holiday, then you can list it down on their paper. Students will also come up with a color scheme where they're going to choose 5 colors that remind them of that holiday. So it really does limit their palette, but it does make their artwork pop a little bit more. I chose Thanksgiving in my example, so I did red, yellow, orange, light brown, and dark brown paper. Now, I didn't just jump in and start making the things on my list that I like to eat and drink. I created a background first. So I demonstrate this for my students, that they're allowed to use hole punches, what I call crazy scissors, which are just those decorative scissors, regular scissors, and glue sticks. Many of them choose to just arrange some little rectangles on the paper. Some of them cut them and make the paper have jagged edges, but we arrange it for an interesting background. It's not a background that looks like anything. It's just colors and shapes that we like that looks fun. And then we're going to layer the food and drink ideas on top of that. They're going to, at that time, be taught some 2D paper techniques. And we're going to talk about abstraction, how things don't look real, how we can change the color of things. We can change the shape. Like I've got this pumpkin with a zigzag stem, and how we've got the little spiral for the cranberry sauce for Thanksgiving. So they're able to change things a little bit. We're not doing things really, really real, but these are more simplified abstractions. And we're focusing just on 2D. So these are going to end up being flat pieces of artwork. But we have a menu of different techniques that they can use. And they're going to try to choose 5 different techniques from that paper. And we're going to talk about how you do those techniques in their artwork. At the end, they're going to stop in and reflect on which ones they used within their artwork by circling yes or no for each technique if they use it. We also talk a little bit about the composition, like using the whole paper and spreading out. Like I'm putting the yellow paper on top of the red to really make it pop. It's got that contrast and it looks different. I'm also really using the whole paper by having some things going off the edge. So it's nice to demonstrate for your students, gluing something down so it goes completely over the edge, turning your artwork to the back, and then trimming things up. One of the techniques that students really enjoy doing for this project is cut to reveal. So I really liked the shape of my pumpkin and my squash, and I cut those out and glued them down, but the trash looked really cool. So in this project, they're able to kind of create that abstraction by also using some of the paper scraps, and there's a lot less waste then on their project, and layering those in. Now, this project actually feeds into a project that I have in another video for 5th grade. I've gotten a lot of questions lately about like, how does this like scope and sequence? How does this all fit together? How am I building skills in my students so that they're ready for those 5th and 6th grade challenges? Well, the 5th grade project that I have that this helps to build towards is a character collage abstraction. So you can check out that video if you're interested in that project, but it deals with abstraction. It also deals with these collage techniques, lots and lots of 2D techniques within the picture to elevate the artwork. So building that up from 3rd and 4th grade helps them to be successful with that in the 5th grade. If you enjoyed this video, I made a video just like this, all about my favorite kindergarten and 5th grade projects, and I hope you'll check those out next.